The 76ers, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Charlotte Hornets, surprisingly, all did very well. We're going to talk about them as some of the biggest winners in this draft period. Also, Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets are talking about a contract extension that could see Kevin Durant retire as a Rocket. And what does that mean for Cam Whitmore? There's also talk about Cam Whitmore trade. And then lastly, we have news on the Celtics and the Lakers. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today. Y'all want to take a look at some of the biggest winners in this draft overall. This is not necessarily order in the best to worst or anything like that. This is just teams that I feel like did really good for themselves in this NBA draft. And the first one that I got to talk about is the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Charlotte Hornets, of course, had a chance to take Ace Bailey or do something crazy like that. That took Con Knipple with this. And while they have a lot of forwards there, with Charlotte, I love this pick for the Charlotte Hornets. I think Con is going to be a player that has an extremely high floor. His ability to put the ball on the floor as a scorer, as a shooter, stretch the floor, I think is all really good when it comes down to it. Of course, I think Trey Johnson has a little bit higher upside than that, but Con Knipple is just a guy that I think he fits in, especially, they'll have to make a decision on what they're going to do with Miles Bridges, things like that. But I think he can help alleviate some of the pressure on Brandon Miller, for example, and LaMelo Ball as well if he ends up still being there. We know that, there's been some calls on that. But he was second all-team ACC, 40.6% from three last season as well, which is going to give him a really nice path to have a role right away in the NBA. I think Charlotte did a really good job when it came down to it. You know what else Charlotte went on and did? They ended up getting Liam McNeely as well at number 29, the Big East Freshman of the Year, who is raw, but make no mistake about it, Liam McNeely also has a upside as a scorer, as a shooter, and all of that. I look at Liam McNeely as another player that I had a lot of faith coming into with this draft later on, especially with where he was going to be drafted. I think he's one of those players who can really shine outside of just the draft position that he was brought into. But they're going to have to figure some things out there in Charlotte. You have Brandon Miller now, Con Knipple, Miles Bridges is still there. You got Tajon Saloon down there, the player that you drafted last year. So you still got a number of players down there that you need to kind of make things make sense with. But you know what else they did? Yeah, they traded Mark Williams. They got Yusuf Nurkic down there, but they also got Ryan Kalkbrenner. And Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think, is one of the players out of the second round in this draft that has a really nice upside when it's all said and done as well. I think that he is going to have an opportunity to really earn himself some minutes right away. The rim protection that he can add, being a floor spacing big as well that has a decent enough three-point shot as well. I think that the Hornets did some really good things out there. I'm not saying that they won the draft or anything like that, but I do think they did a lot better than I was expecting the Hornets to do in this draft. Next up, and I know this is probably going to come back to blow up in my face, but the 76ers had a really, really nice draft. And I know they did not make a move for Paul George. He's still on the roster. You got Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George still there. You're hoping that the rookie that really shined for you and Jared McCain steps back up for you as well. But Daryl Morey did a pretty solid job getting VJ Edgecombe, one of the best athletes overall in this draft. His explosiveness, his two-way play, how he can come in and bring a lot of defense in there as well with Tyrese Maxey. Of course, you're going to have to make it work with him, McCain, and Maxey and try to figure out what the balance is going to be there. But getting VJ Edgecombe for this team was something that I think just made sense for the Philadelphia 76ers. They now have a young crew of guards, right, that they're building around. And I like a lot of what this team, has there with their youth potentially. If they ever decide to make a pivot and do something else, I feel like they put themselves in a decent enough position. I'm not saying that, they're back to being, the team that they want to be. But, now you're probably looking at Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe being your starting backcourt with Paul George sliding down to the three, which then means that Jared McCain is going to be coming off the bench, which I don't think is necessarily a bad role for him and what he showed last year either. So you still got Dembana down there as well, who's a player that I really liked. But then in the second round, they went out and got Johnny Broome. And I love what he can be as a bench player in this league. I think that he's tough. I can get it that he doesn't have the extremely high ceiling. He's not no explosive, crazy athlete, but he's just a tough son of a bitch. And when you look at what they need, especially with Yabusele probably leaving away in free agency, getting Johnny Broome early in the second round, I think that it's really good. You have that now. I think you can play with Joel Embiid when Joel Embiid is healthy. He can come in there, be small ball center for you a little bit as well. I'm not saying that there aren't some red flags when it comes to Broome. We'll see what happens there. Again, doesn't have the great athleticism and may not even be NBA level athleticism, but his toughness, I think, gets there. And I think he's going to have some trouble defending in space and with the added space in the NBA. But I think when you're talking about on ball in the paint defense, Johnny Broome's going to be a really good player for them. 2025 SEC Player of the Year that they got there. So while he didn't have a ton of draft picks, I think that they got really good. Johnny Broome grew as a scorer as well. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 2.1 blocks per game. I'm not saying that's going to be NBA production for him, but I think you got a really nice, solid bench piece at the next level. And I think the Philadelphia 76ers did really good in that. Next up, the Spurs. The Spurs did great in this draft. I know there was some talk about them making a big trade for a big name, things like that. They ended up getting Dylan Harper in this draft, right, who brings offense, high-level defensive ceiling as well when it comes down to that. And then you got Carter Bryant as well in here. Now, while Carter Bryant is one of the more raw prospects in this draft, I think his prototypical 3-and-D game that he's bringing to the NBA, and he goes to the team in the Spurs. I know Pop's not the coach there anymore, but the Spurs have historically been a really good organization at developing players. Carter Bryant going there and his development, I think, is going to be really good for him. Of course, he's going to have to fight his way, and he may not play a lot in his rookie year. They still got Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson still there. They got those players that are on there, Devin Vassell, that are on that forward rotation. Harrison Barnes is still there as a veteran as well. But I think the 76ers did themselves a really big favor getting Dylan Harper. Now, of course, there's going to be questions. What does it mean for Stephon Castle? We'll see what ends up happening when it comes down to that. But I think the Spurs did a good job of getting young talent around Wemby and trying to figure out what that's going to look like going forward for the squad. So I think it's really good what they've done here. I think the Spurs continue their youth movement. A lot of Spurs fans did not want to see the Spurs come off that youth movement to go out and get a Kevin Durant or anything like that. I was one of those guys as well. And I think that they got themselves some really nice young talent to add to their core here, and they're gonna figure it out. The last team that I think that definitely did some things in this draft that are going to be talked about potentially is the Atlanta Hawks, man. The Atlanta Hawks and what they did in this draft, right? When the Pelicans wanted to trade up and get Derek Queen, the fact that they got an unprotected 2026 first-round pick and number 23 overall to move up 10 spots, did the New Orleans Pelicans with the Atlanta Hawks. I think that the Hawks set themselves up to have a really good pick next year in a very deep draft. And while Derek Queen, I think, could be really good, there's some questionable fits there in New Orleans, but I think that they did good. Also getting Asa Newell as well with that 23 pick and what he brings defensively and potentially as a scorer at the next level as well. I think that the Hawks quietly had themselves a really nice draft as well. But let me know what you guys think on those teams winning the NBA draft or being winners of the NBA draft. Let me know that down below. But we do have an update on Kevin Durant as well. This one comes from Shams, who says this. The goal right now for Kevin Durant and the Rockets is for him to retire in Houston. They're going to eventually this offseason discuss a contract extension and figure out where it lands. Here's the thing. I get it that Kevin Durant wants long-term security. I do think that the Rockets need to be careful on how long they sign Kevin Durant's next contract for. Shams goes on to say this. Kevin Durant, from what I understood, he was excited to go to Houston to specifically play with Alperen, Amin, Jabari Smith, and Reed Shepherd. They got so many young players, Tari Eason as well, and Ime Udoka is a coach that he's very familiar with from Team USA as well as with his stint with the Nets. There's a lot of mutual respect there, a deep level of respect, so there's excitement there. I just think they got to thread that needle. You want to be careful on how much and how long you sign Kevin Durant for. But I think it makes a lot of sense here for the Houston Rockets, to want to lock him in there, lock in that security, give them a path of, all right, now by the time of end of whatever Kevin Durant's contract is, or even maybe before, Amin Thompson needs to be our number one. And I think the Houston Rockets are playing this thing right. And we'll just got to see how it works out. But one of the players that was not mentioned in that is Cam Whitmore. Now, reportedly as well, that Cam Whitmore is drawing some trade talk. This comes from Shams as well. It says, in terms of grand moves, the roster is set. But there are things that they could do around the edges and expectations with signings in free agency. There's a contract that they have as well in a player named Cam Whitmore, a young player with talent that has gotten interest around the league. That's someone that you could, if you're the Rockets, you could potentially move him for draft capital or a player that can help you now. Listen, Cam Whitmore is upside as a scorer. I think is there, and but does he have now more of a wing with Dylan Brooks gone? Right? Does that open up more of a window for Cam Whitmore, or is Jabari Smith going to step into that? Another player going to step into that, and Cam Whitmore is going to find himself out on the edges. If so, I do think that the Houston Rockets could get a nice trade back. I'm not saying amazing, but they can get themselves a nice trade back for Cam Whitmore. They just got to decide what they're going to do there. But Cam Whitmore is the chip that if they're looking for another win now piece, don't be surprised if they end up moving Cam Whitmore. I don't know what they could be targeting right now. Maybe point guard depth behind Fred VanVleet. Who knows? They also could just wait till the trade deadline, see how this team works. Cam Whitmore could be that piece at the trade deadline that they look to get some other things. And we'll see what ends up happening there with Cam Whitmore. But he is a name to watch out for as this offseason goes on. But from that team, let's go back east. The Celtics have reportedly put in a trade proposal for Robert Williams. Keep in mind, they are the team that traded Robert Williams to the Portland Trail Blazers. So it seems like this is a team that could be looking to bring in some more depth, and that reportedly, this is rumored again, that the Celtics would offer Sam Hauser, Xavier Tillman, J.D. Davison, and a second-round pick to get Robert Williams back in this team. And listen, it's not something that I think is bad. Getting more center depth, especially after trading away Kristaps Porzingis, can make a lot of sense for that team. We'll end up seeing what happens there. But the Celtics are a team that's not done dealing. I think that they aren't going to take, they're not going to trade their core. Pritchard, White, Tatum, Brown, all those guys are staying there. So now they're trying to figure out how to form something around that core. And I think with Portland and what all they have at that center position, yeah, they could look to move Robert Williams to gain some assets back, things like that. And that could make some sense in that case. So would not be surprised at all if Robert Williams is moved. Is it going to be moved to the Celtics, though? That's the bigger question there, and that's the one that we remain to find out as this offseason goes on. But let me know what you guys think about the Boston Celtics potentially sniffing around Robert Williams and bringing him back into the fold to be their center. Lastly, Austin Reaves declined a $89.2 million max contract extension offer with the Los Angeles Lakers. This one comes from The Athletic, and here's the thing. This is not meaning that Austin Reaves isn't going to stay with the Lakers. It means that he realizes that he can sign more as an unrestricted free agent, and that's just what it is, what it comes down to it. For where he's at, Kobe White's in a similar situation with the Chicago Bulls, is that he can sign for more as an unrestricted free agent, and that's probably what he's going to have to do. Now, I still think that the Lakers could look to move Austin Reaves for their starting caliber center. We'll see what ends up happening with that one. But turning down that, I just think it means that Reaves is just setting himself up to sign a bigger contract with the Lakers or with any other team, as he would qualify for more than he would get in the contract extension in that case. And I think that that's just pretty straightforward when it comes down to that. But, we'll see what the future holds for Austin Reaves and the Los Angeles Lakers. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. That's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video, probably tomorrow. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.